Hi there, welcome to this build of a 40-inch wingspan Clancy Aviation Speedy Bee, and it's going to be powered by an OS fs26, so one of the really small 4-strokes, and I'm working from a great set of plans that I downloaded off the AutoZone website. And if you have a look in the description below this video, there will be a link to the plans and a bit more other information. Now I've got the plans on the wall behind me which we're working to, and you can see in front of me on previous videos we've actually got the build to quite an advanced stage. We've got the wings finished, the nacelle, we've got the turtle deck and the fuselage, and it's a two-piece structure. So in this video what we need to build now, and really the only bit of construction we've got left, is going to be the tailplane and the fin. The tailplane is a very simple structure. It's on the plans just over here, which you probably can't see in the camera, but that's essentially what we're looking at. And it's just made out of 1/8 balsa. Very simple design. The tailplane, the fin, which is on the plans up here, we've got again a separate sheet here, and I'm going to be building this on top of the plans, or building the fin on top of the plans. Now I've been doing a little bit of preparation, and I'll move the camera and just show you what I've got so far. Well, as I said, the tailplane itself is nice and simple. You've got the main part of the tailplane, and then we've got the elevators, great big elevators. And I've been sorting out my balsa, and I've got a couple of nice straight sheets of balsa here which I'm going to use. And we can get, it looks like here it's shown as being made in 2 parts, but I think that's just because of the balsa size that they were having at the time, or were using. The balsa I've got is 4 inches wide, or what's that, 100mm, and so we can get the whole elevator out of this piece of timber. So we're going to do that. Now to construct this, what I'm going to do for the actual tailplane itself, I'm going to line this straight edge up here. I'll probably just cut that with a scalpel and a straight edge just to make sure that is absolutely straight, because when balsa's cut and dried you often get a little bit of a wave, so we want to start with a nice straight edge. Once we're sure that's straight, I'm going to be lining up the back edge of the elevator like that, and a couple of weights, and then I'm going to take one of my T-pins and I'm just going to put a mark through, just point through the plan and into the balsa, and just leave a slight impression in the balsa. I'll do that slightly wide. We can then take the plan off and we'll see the marks, and we can cut it out and sand it. Now I will do that for both the main part of the tailplane, but also the elevators as well. Now we can see here that you've got the 2 big bits of the elevator, and then you've got a cross narrow piece where the fin goes, and we've got a couple of strengtheners there which I've already made. This is actually 1mm ply. I think they're suggesting it should be slightly thinner than this. I was just looking at the plans. Yeah, they were suggesting 1/32, so that would be 0.8mm, and this is 1mm, so very slightly thicker, so neither here nor there. And there's one of those goes both top and bottom. Now I think when I cut this out, again I will line up a straight edge. I'll use the pins to mark it, and what I will do is I will cut it out to shape, I think, but I will probably come across and leave this wide. I won't cut it out as thin as it needs to be, and then I will stick on the plywood either side to strengthen it, and then I will do the final bit of cutting, because this is quite thin here, so rather than risk breaking it or damaging it, I'll cut it out once I've got the plywood on. And essentially that's it, job done really. Once we've done that, I'll be using the 6 hinges as shown here. These are Cavan plastic hinges and I will epoxy these in. These are, oops, try another one. These are really good hinges, very frictionless and work lovely. So that's essentially the tailplane. We'll come back and have a look at that in a bit and see how we're getting on with it. Now, if I sweep that lot aside, and we will take a look at what we're doing with the fin. Now, the fin is made up of a number of components, but we've got templates for 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. The rest is just cut from balsa. Now, to make these pieces, I've cut out the templates and I've stuck them on some 1/8 balsa. But before I stuck them on, I put some of this Scotch blue tape onto the balsa. It sticks really well. You can then stick your plans to it, you can cut it out, and then it just peels off. And as a demonstration of that, one of the other pieces I've made is that goes there like that, just the keel, and this is made from a sandwich of plywood, and then it's got a couple of pieces of balsa either side like that, and we have a tail wheel that goes in it. But I stuck it on in exactly the same way, and just to show you how easy this peels off, there we go, just comes off, and actually you've still got the template if you want to keep it. So we've got that, and let me just move this over a little bit, and I've got a tail wheel which I've bent up out of some 1.2mm music wire. It's not the best of curves, but it'll be under the fuselage, so hopefully it won't show up too much. Now what I need to do is cut a slot out of this central piece of plywood, and then the wire will just fit into it like that. I'm then going to sandwich this up. I'm going to epoxy that. I'm going to epoxy that. I will put on my piece of plywood with the slot. I'm going to put the wire in, and then I'm going to epoxy that. The reason I'm using epoxy is just to give strength. Well, it'll hold the wire because the slot will be full of epoxy and it'll stop it slopping. If it's just, if I was to C8, you wouldn't have that gap filling in. It might just wiggle a little bit. But also the epoxy will soak in and just strengthen the balsa a little bit. So I think what I'm going to do now, and once I've got these components done, I will then build this on top of the plan, and I will come back and show you once I've got these done and when I start building. Right, well, I've now got the tailplane and the elevator cut out using the templates, and you'll have seen how easy that was and quick it was on the high-speed film. I've now got these pieces of plywood, this 1mm ply, which I'm going to just stick on either side of this central section. But I'm not going to put this back edge flush. I'm just going to bring it forward a couple of mil, 1/16 of an inch, something like that, just to allow this elevator to be profiled a little bit without it touching the plywood. So there'll just be a little bit there to profile it. So I'll get these both put on, and once they're glued, I will cut out this central section. Obviously, as I said before, I want to get these on to strengthen it before I cut that out. Right, definitely time for an update on a few things. I haven't touched the tailplane itself, but I've been working on the elevator, and you can see we've got this strengthening plywood on there now. Just glued that on both sides with aliphatic resin and cut out the little bit of excess that I left here just for strength until I've got that on. So, and I've sanded that, still got the rest of it to sand, but I'll leave that until another time when I'm going to sand stuff outside. Now, I said I was going to hinge this with these Cavan hinges. I'm not sure what I was thinking. This is only really thin. It's 1/8 balsa, 3.2mm balsa, and I don't think I will get these Cavan hinges in here if I tried. So what I'm going to be doing is using these mylar hinges. I got these from the World Models in Hong Kong when I was out that way, and they're really good, really thin. And so what I would do is just cut very thin slots into the timber, and then these will just slip in and CA. They're really good hinges. I've used them a lot. They do have a little bit of natural resistance to them, which the Cavan hinges don't have, but I don't really think I have a choice because of the thinness of them. Right, well, I've now been laying this out, cutting and sanding all these joints to get everything right. I did use the templates to start with to get the basic shape, but you really have to tailor these joints because the templates aren't brilliant. They're an approximation at best, particularly these cross pieces. But I've got it all sorted now, and I've got the joints nice and tight. And to get this to all sit in the right plane, we've got the central pillar, which is supported on 1/16 balsa, there, there and there. And that's to lift it off the board, just move these, so that these 1/16 by 1/2 inch cross pieces will slip underneath. And then they curve up and come on to the rim. You can see that just shown there. But the rim has to be supported on 3/32 balsa to lift it up enough, and all of the rim is on this 3/32 balsa to lift it up. And then we've got these other 1/16 by 1/2 inch that then go on top and press into those slots like that, and we get from that this sort of curved effect on this fin. Hopefully that will be right. Now we've got the other piece here. It's been really fiddliest bit of the whole build getting this right. But so it's 3/32 around the outside and these 1/16 pieces just to lift up that pillar. Now the one bit I haven't done yet is the base for this fin, which is going to need quite a bit of sanding to make that fit. I haven't touched it yet from when I just cut it out roughly, but I wanted to show you what I was doing because I've done this different to what I said I would do. I was going to epoxy it, but I think epoxy will set quite hard and make it difficult maybe to get a hinge in. So what I've done is I cut the slot for the leg, and that's a really nice tight fit, and I've thick CA'd this. I used it in thick CA all over, just pressed it down nice and hard, and that's laminated that onto there, and this leg is nice and secure. I've then cut out a little bit of a slot here and here. We could just see what we've done there. So when that goes together, it leaves a hole which, if I'm careful when I CA it, it will allow me to slot in one of these Kevlar hinges, and that will eventually be epoxied into place. I may need to just scrape that out a little bit, but I want to make sure that I can get that hinge in and nice and central before I laminate this and fit it. I'm still going to need to cut through this central post, but at least there will be a slot there. Trying to do that in the plywood is just going to be really difficult if I don't do that. So there we go, I've just got that slot ready to accept the hinge. Once we've got that in, we then need to get a little bit of 1/16 balsa and just build up this central pillar up to this point, so it would be flush with that and flush with the sides of this base piece. Anyway, I'm going to start and get this glued together now, and yes, got to put the plastic under here so it doesn't stick, but then we can get it glued and we'll see what it looks like. Well, moment of truth, let's see what this looks like. We'll get it off the building board now, and I hope that we've got all these supports the right size and everything is going to be okay. It's always quite interesting to take something off the building board and just to see how it looks, and actually you can see the curves on those bits of balsa. There's not much, just quite subtle. I think if I hold it like that, maybe it shows up a little bit more. I've got the piece of 116 down here, but you can see there it still needs putting on that side. So I'm going to get that done now, and then I'm going to sand this up and we'll take a final look at it. Right, well, I've now got the fin cleaned up, shaped nicely, and the hinges put in, but we'll have a look at that in just a second. First, I was going to put the hinges now in the tailplane and elevator, these mylar hinges, and I thought I'd just show you how I'm going to do that. Now, I've now marked on this tailplane what's the top and where I want all 6 hinges, and I've also transferred those marks onto this edge here. Now, the way I'm going to cut the slot is I'm just going to put it on the side of my bench, and I'm going to take a scalpel with a really sharp blade, and I'm going to do this by eye to find the centre, but if you want to measure it, that's fine, but it does ideally need to be in the centre. And I'm just going to do a slot with the scalpel, and I find the trick with this is to just do it nice and slowly, a little bit at a time, and a little bit deeper, and we just need to make sure that the scalpel is nice and upright. There. Now let's try that and see what that goes like. There we go. And there we have the hinge. Well, I've now got the elevator fitted to the tailplane, hinges in, and that works lovely. What I might end up doing is just thinning down the central 2 hinges just a little bit to reduce the resistance on that. As I said earlier, with mylar hinges you do get a little bit of resistance compared to things that have got hinge pins. But that's fine, it works great and I'm really pleased with it. Still needs a little bit of sanding, and we can just slot that into the back of the fuselage now and see how that looks. Now the actual fin itself, I've sanded that, cleaned it up, and I have to put my hand up to a little bit of a mistake. I put the bottom hinge a little bit too high, and I just had to extend that slot down a little bit, which was, to be honest, because I'd already got a slot there, was easy enough to do, but it was just binding in the way with the elevator and stopping that downward movement. But like I say, it was easy enough to fix, and the concept was there of how we put that slot in to accept the hinge. I just should have checked it a little bit better before I actually put it together, but these things happen. As you can see, it's cleaned up lovely, and we've got that curved profile. Hopefully you can see that on either side of the fin. And I've also cleaned up the base piece here, so it comes back and tapers in to the rear of the fin, and I think that is looking really nice, and it would be great to actually get that fitted onto the fuselage now and see what it looks like. There we go, and I think that looks really nice. It's great to get this finished. Well, doesn't this look great? It's really exciting to see this starting to come together. But I'm going to draw this video to a close now, and I hope you found it useful and interesting. Now in the next video we're going to be looking at where we're going to place the servos, the electronics. So we're going to be mocking this up and seeing where the natural CG falls and where we need to put those components and the battery to get the CG as specified on the plans. So I hope you'll come back and see how we get on in that video. And it's a really important exercise if we're going to make this aircraft balance without adding any weight. So anyway, thanks very much for watching.